Once upon a time, there was this man who thought that Christmas was about a lot of foolishness. He wasn't a Scrooge. He was a very kind and decent person. He treated people with respect, but he didn't believe in all that stuff about an incarnation, God becoming one of us, that the church celebrated at Christmas. "I'm truly sorry to distress you," he told his wife, who was a faithful churchgoer, "but I simply cannot understand this claim that God became one of us. It doesn't make sense to me." On Christmas Eve, his wife and children went to Mass at midnight, but he didn't go. "I would feel like a hypocrite," he said. "I would much rather stay at home." Shortly after they left, the snow began to fall heavily. He went to the window. "If we must have Christmas, it's nice to have a white one." He sat by the fire for warmth. A few minutes later, he was startled by a thudding sound. It was followed by another and then by another. He thought that someone was throwing snowballs at his window. He went to the door to investigate. He found a flock of birds huddled miserably in the snow. They had been caught in the snowstorm, and in a desperate search for shelter, they had tried to fly through his window. "I cannot let these poor creatures stay out in the cold, but how can I help them?" he thought. Then he remembered the barn where the children's ponies were kept. It would provide a warm shelter, so he put on his coat and he trampled through the thick snow to the barn. He opened the barn doors wide and turned on the lights. But the birds would not go in. Food will bring them in, he thought, so he turned back into the house and he got some breadcrumbs. He sprinkled these on the snow and he made a trail into the barn. But to his dismay, they ignored the breadcrumbs and they grouped together helplessly in the snow. He tried shoo-shooing them into the barn by walking round and waving his arms, but they scattered in every direction, except into the warm barn. "They find me a strange and terrifying creature," he said to himself, "and I can't think of any way to let them know that they can trust me. If only I could be a bird myself for a few minutes, perhaps I could lead them to safety." Just at that moment, the church bells rang out. He stood silently as the bells rang the glad tidings of Christmas. Then he sank to his knees in the snow, looking at the plight of the birds and his own desire to bring them to safety. He whispered, "Now I understand. Now I see why God had to do it. Why God had to become one of us. To bring us safely home." may the birth of the child Jesus bring peace and joy to all of our hearts, our homes, and indeed to our world this Christmas time. Wishing you all a Christ-filled Christmas.